welcome to Talk the Thrones. We're here to break down the 4th episode of the 3rd season of House of the Dragon. I'm Joanna Robinson. Joining me is Van Lathan. And is she a queen or is she a bitch with a dragon? It's Mallory Rubin.
Wow. Tough.
We're going to get into that right after this.
We are thrilled to share that the Ringerverse team, the Midnight Boys Pew Pew, and the House of R will be returning to San Diego Comic-Con this July.
We're kicking off on Thursday, July 23rd at Whiskey Girl for a Ringerverse fan meetup. No badge required. We'll be there for an hour or so starting around 6:30, so come say hi, grab a drink, celebrate with us.
And then on Saturday, July 25th at 10:30 a.m., come to our panel. Comic-Con badge holders can find the Midnight Boys Pew Pew and the House of R.
Correct.
In room 5AB on the upper level of the convention center for a Ringerverse Supergroup panel. We're going to be discussing the franchises that have dominated nerd culture this year and taking stock of what's to come.
So whether you're local to San Diego or in town for Comic-Con, we'd love to see you at Whiskey Girl on Thursday. Or if you're a badge holder, join us on Saturday, July 25th for our panel.
See you in San Diego.
All right, our pal Christopher Ryan is not here today, but joining us as a very special guest, it's Van Lathan. How you doing, Van?
I'm great. This lets me know that I am what I always wanted to be. It's the Black CR.
I don't know. I'm the one with the A's hat on. You got a Dodgers hat on. I've never seen CR in a Dodgers hat.
He never would. He never would do
Never
that.
would. So you can listen to Van on Midnight Boys,
Pew pew.
Higher Learning,
Tailgate.
Raise the roof.
and many other shows.
Whatever you guys want.
Mallory Rubin,
Hello.
incredible host of House of R, queen of the deep dive herself, incredible person.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, how lovely.
And I'm also on House of R.
I mean, I think we're going to probably open House of R this week saying, let us become wraiths with fear as our standard. So tune in for that. Can't wait.
We're the Scorpions of podcasts. It's true. I'm here doing my very best Christopher Ryan impression just for a little bit. Then you won't have to deal with the hat anymore. So
I think the hat is really working.
Thank you so much.
I
like
say that.
it.
I think it looks great. It looks
Sporty
fucking great.
and all of that stuff. It looks
Yeah,
good.
and everyone's like, Joanna, she's sporty.
Sports
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, sports show.
Go sports.
So here's it's as good as my map making skills. Here's my impression of a Chris Ryan recap. Hot on the heels of Daemon's Dragon Rider supremacy monologue, in this midway point of the season, several House of the Dragon characters are asking themselves, how do you dance without a dragon? Rhaenyra's dragon army is relegated to babysitting Tumbleton, and with the castle-sized Vhagar mysteriously missing, members of Team Green like Criston Cole and Ormund Hightower are forced to contemplate a dragonless, or mostly dragonless, way forward. Aegon, too, despite trying to Valyrian Reiki heal his dragon Sunfire back into action, is finding out it's not all breakfast sandwiches and puppet shows when an Aegon Targaryen goes undercover for an internship among the common folk. You know who does have a dragon?
Who?
Rhaena. Rhaena has a dragon, and now Daemon knows it too. Continuing his tradition of gleefully killing folks who are simply trying to enjoy the fresh air in the Vale, Daemon offers up an innocent shepherd's head, cooked Pittsburgh style, to his wife Rhaenyra.
Wow.
The queen seems duped for now, but her mistress of whispers, not so much. No. Speaking of Mysaria, she's taken the lead of Rhaenyra's team of rivals, which includes a massive promotion for Nepo baby Alan of Hull, a come-up for the ever-scrappy Grandmaster Orwyle, and welcome to the opening tapestry, newly minted master of coin, Torrin Manderly.
It's too soon.
Immediate tapestry
no more
star.
standard for the tapestry of history. What on earth?
Immediate tapestry star. Over in Tumbleton, we've witnessed firsthand why the Third Amendment exists. That's the one about quartering soldiers, which I definitely didn't have to Google. Don't worry about it. Ormund Hightower, like me, is just reading email after email with increasing exasperation while we finally officially meet Prince Daeron, who is less excited by the sight of his uncle's bare ass than a Targaryen usually is.
Well,
Yeah, works out.
And in a turn more heartbreaking than watching the U.S. lose to Belgium, we watch Good Boy Daeron.
Sports Joe!
Sports going
Joe!
crazy.
We
What's
watch
happening?
Good Boy Daeron lose some of his innocence as he plunges a Valyrian
man.
steel sword into Hugh Hammer's brother-in-law. Rapid fire roundup.
Wow.
Alys Rivers is traded in her aprons for Simon Strong's leftover purple velvets and golden jewelry and is possibly hiding a Targaryen heir. Speaking of hiding a Targaryen heir, Helaena appears to be secretly prego.
Yes.
Wild.
Yeah.
Boris Baratheon has made himself scarce while Lord Corlys Velaryon is off hunting pirates. Alan's a cat guy, Jane Eyre's a dog mom, and Gawain Hightower, Ulf White, the populace of Tumbleton, the Banksy of King's Landing, and Lord and Lady Footley's favorite table are straight up not having a good time. So to paraphrase Theoden King, Sir Arthur Dayne, and Ormond Hightower, now we may begin.
Wow.
And that's
Incredible.
the CR recap.
That was phenomenal. I thought
Unbelievable.
so.
That was great.
All right, let's start as we always do. Van Lathan, what was your favorite part of the episode?
Daemon's daughter conundrum.
Rhaena.
Rhaena at the end. For a lot of reasons. Number one, it's kind of tying a thread that he left his entire family and they were kind of spread to the wind and stuff. But I love stuff where people are asked to be a dad.
Yeah.
They're asked to be a father. They're asked to kind of slip back into that role. And I thought that his character would react like in a different way. I did not think that he would care.
Okay.
I did not think at all because the character in some way to be that dangerous as he is, he has to be cynical and he has to be like, this makes sense. And that's who he's been in this entire season. You have to kill this person. You have to do this. It doesn't matter how grotesque the task is.
Yeah.
Got to kill the kid. He's an heir to the throne. You're going to have to kill him. You have to kill Otto, like in front of you. You got to do all of this stuff. But for some reason, there was still some humanity in him when it came to his daughter. Then he undid it right away by killing an innocent.
Yeah.
To then like spin this entire yarn about like what's actually going on. So you see him both be a man and then be what he believes himself to be, which is a god that can take a life whenever he wants in like one scene, in two scenes back to back. And it completely encapsulates what the character is.
I love that read. I love Matt Smith's face, like Damon's face.
Yeah.
And I love, to your point about him being a god, the fact that shepherd is just sort of down the mountain and is so small and he's sort of like looking down on him.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like, I could just kill that guy. No problem. I can because I'm a god.
You know, at certain times in the show, they do a great job of making the Targaryens like actually look like dragons.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And when you think about the fact that Sheep Stealer preys on sheeps and goats and things like that, when he looked down at him, he looked like prey.
Bro.
He looked like something to be eaten and harvested for whatever Daemon wanted him
Call
for.
of the goat drawing his awareness in the first place.
He comes back over there and she goes, what's I forget names a lot of times. What's the mistress of
Missaria.
Goes, whose head is that?
Yeah, who the fuck's head is that?
Well, she did say last week she can sniff a lie.
Like whose head is
Helps
that?
if it's extra dragon crispy when you're sniffing the lie, I guess. But she knew right away that Daemon was full of shit. I'm really excited to talk about the Daemon Rhaena stuff more. Very rich text.
Mallory Rubin, what was your favorite part of the episode?
Oh, God. Hard to pick because this was another really good episode of House of the Dragon.
Banger.
What a run we're on. I think the bathtub etiquette is something I'm looking forward to discussing. All of the Dragon Bond moments, something I'm looking forward to discussing. But it's kind of a tie for me between these two things. The vintage Game of Thrones feel of just this many characters and this many locations. It's really rare in a House of the Dragon episode that we are in King's Landing, Tumbleton, The Vale, Rook's Rest, Harrenhal. Not those specific locations, but like 5 distinct locations that all were actually central to something that happened in the plot. I think the other thing for me is the through line and theme of almost every character, regardless of whether they think they're winning or know they're losing, basically being a prisoner. Some of that is very literal, right? Like Helaena and Alicent are being kept in a lovely room and occasional visits to the Godswood, but they're prisoners.
Your girl Targaryen in chains.
Targaryen literally chained in the sept. Can't wait to talk about the symbolism of that from Ormond Hightower's perspective. Not sure if you guys have heard a little character named Daenerys Targaryen ever mention that a dragon is not a slave. Has that come up in Game of Thrones before? Ulf in a fashion. Rhaenyra just says to him, you're not allowed to leave anymore. You can't go to taverns.
Your
you can't
body
leave
belongs
except for
to me.
your body belongs to you. You can't leave except to go on duty for me. Criston, imprisoned by his increasingly confounding sense of purpose and honor. Rhaena by her exile. Daemon now by the choice he's made. On and on and on the list goes. And of course, Daeron, I think, is a really new important character in the story, maybe most interestingly of all.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent a lot of time in the show, including in this episode, hearing Alicent talk about the idea of how glad she is that Daeron was spared being raised at the court. And we look at this now clearly through these amazing Ormond and Daeron scenes in this episode. This is just a prison of a different sort, the prison of being Ormond Hightower's ward. So it's a great Daeron Ormond episode. I'm so excited to talk about them more, and just in general, really rich thematic text to link these characters. There's a lot of parallels across this. You know, the ordained mission emerging for Ormond, when we've talked about that so much with Rhaenyra. It's very rich text. What about you, Joe? What's your highlight?
For me, it's definitely Daeron and Ormond. I think it's really difficult on a show in a third season to introduce characters and get us to care about them so much right away. And like, as compelled as I am by Ormond, and I'm great because James Norton is a fantastic actor, I am like kind of all in on Daeron Targaryen. Yeah. Like, he just got here and I kind of care more about him than almost anyone else on the show. And I don't know if it's just like the performance from this kid, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, who I saw as an even smaller kid in Bly Manor. He's like uncanny good. And as you and I were discovering, he's going to be Link in the Legends of Zelda movie.
Yeah.
Like,
what?
That kid's about to be famous.
Yeah, this kid's on the come up, but he is like incredibly good in this episode. And there's just like a lot of moments of just like of looks, of flinches, of just like all these moments that tell a huge story. His eyes are very compelling. And I'm just like all in on him and his innocence and what is at risk here for him. And I really needed that like even deeper emotional investment inside of House of the Dragon. I also think this is once again a really funny episode. I think they're doing a really good job of like sprinkling humor in all of the locations. So you're never like, oh, here we go, we're back here. It's like Alice Rivers being like, oh, you didn't know
incredible
that
moment.
Rhaenyra took King's Landing. Torn Manderly, really fun on the small council. You know, they've just like do pops of humor sort of everywhere, which is the classic Thrones. You love to see it. And then I wanted to, because CR is not here in his absence, shout out the writer of this episode, who's David Hancock, who is CR's favorite writer from last season. He wrote on The Crown previously, but he wrote on season 2, episode 3, Burning Mill, season 2, episode 7, Red Sewing. And something that CR really highlighted when we talked about this last season was like an elevation of language. There were just certain words like, oh, you're going to go carp, you know, or like paint a rondelle on his chest instead of target. You know, there's just like a little like tweak of words here and there that really feel like you need to lean in and catch every word, which I really liked in this episode.
Made me think of Grogu, because that was a big piece of armor that he collected.
Rondelle. Yeah.
You know, to the Daeron point, something happened in this episode. I talked a little bit about this. Probably will talk a little bit about this on the Midnight Boys.
Pew, pew.
That will happen. Pew pew. Is we also watched him take his Game of Thrones communion, like in this show.
Yeah.
We watched him, like the Game of Thrones starts with Bran having to watch Ned kill someone, right? And then we go through all of these characters with them getting to that point, them like becoming a part of this world, and it's normally by the sword. Like we even watched that for like Rhaenyra earlier in this season.
Yep.
She had to take that life, and she didn't want to do it. Didn't want to kill him. And he looks at her and goes, hey, just let you know, everybody's watching.
Yeah.
If you don't do this, you're not really a part of this thing. Like, to be nobility in this world, you have to set yourself apart from the people that have to die in order for you to rule.
Yeah.
And like that scene where he has to do that, I'm like, oh, we're cooking with the same Thrones recipe that we've been cooking with. And watching him lose his innocence right there was really meaningful for the character and for the show.
I got really emotional. And I'm just like incredibly all in on this kid.
Yeah.
So
I feel very invested. That baptism by blood, to your point, is like something we've been talking about a lot. And it's fascinating to track when that is an act of agency on a character's behalf, or something like in this case that feels like a real loss, a real source of corruption, a tragedy, something that like clearly Daeron did not want to do, the quivering, the shaking. Enhanced further by the fact that Tessarion, who is chained there in the Sept in Tumbleton, clearly despises Ormond Hightower, roaring, moving toward him. Ormond flinching.
Is like
the second he walks in.
We don't know how it's manifested, but it is clear that Ormond has been abusing Daeron, whether literally, physically, or not. But there, you know, when Daeron's like, get out to that other serving boy in the room right before Ormond loses his shit on the table, it's just sort of like he knows about Ormond's temper. He knows it can be taken out on people. Has it ever physically been taken out on him? I'm not sure. But the way in which Tessarion like reacts when Ormond goes to touch Daeron makes me just like really sad, like devastated.
And especially in an episode that across multiple character sets, Aegon seeing Sunfire, Rhaena saying, I will not leave Sheepstealer, he's a part of me. This was an episode that went out of its way, in a way I loved as a Dragon stan and superfan, to reinforce the bond between Rider and Dragon. So the fact that Tessarion responds that way to Ormond tells us something about not only what Tessarion has observed and feels, but what Daeron feels about Ormond, which, to your point about the facial expressions and how compelling the performance is, we can tell in a number of respects. I loved what that told us about their dynamic and relationship and what Daeron has clearly witnessed and had to suffer through, but also just more generally outside of even the Ormond relationship, Daeron's power of observation. The fact that Daeron is paying attention, absorbing. You know, we have all of these moments with him, and now looking back, realizing who he is, you know, standing with his hands kind of behind his back.
That posture. Yeah.
You know, I've been recently reading books about cults.
This is an incredible sentence.
Yeah.
When you read a book about a cult, you start to realize everything is a cult. Almost everything is a cult. Like,
do you think you'd be a good cult leader?
Oh, you'd be fantastic.
I would be amazing.
I agree.
Fantastic.
The book has actually stirred up some things in me.
Some desire, some latent desire.
Yeah.
But when I watched this episode through that lens, I watched Ormond try to make Daeron a member of the Hightower cult.
I love that.
Yes.
Of him trying to, of like everything. Hey, he naturally, he's a Targaryen, so he naturally wants to have like cool, fun times with his dragon. No. Don't like rub that beast. Don't fall in love with that
no
beast.
affection.
Like all of that. He gives him what you have to give somebody that's in a cult. The first part of the brainwashing is that we are better than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the first part of the cult. Like we live a life that's either going to like be rewarded by God or here on this earthly plane, we're better than everyone else. And you have to believe that. And that's what he's giving them. He's saying, hey, the Targaryens rule this place because they have these big WMDs. But really, it is, look at the color of your hair. Look at me. Really, it is us who are fit to rule and who are the best. And watching him try to bring him into that, because I've been into the cults, was just fascinating to me.
And to do it inside of, as you mentioned, the sept, you know, we've got when Tessarion like knocks over all the candles on the altar there. I thought that was incredible. But like to cloak it inside of the language of purity, of like we are what's right, but we are what's pure, and we are what is innocent, and like the Targaryens are a savage race, and they are disgusting, and this is a half of you. Part of you is Targaryen. But I love the point. I love that they've made Daeron a redhead. Like, I love that. I love that he has red hair because it's just sort of like he doesn't look like a Targaryen.
Are you guys sure he has red hair?
I want to ask y'all that. I wanted to ask y'all
that. To make him look more like a Hightower.
Because she says, and we never know when the goddamn Targaryen shit's going to kick in, by the way, just to let you guys know. It's very picky with that shit. She says that she wanted him to be a Hightower, right? Mm-hmm. Her last.
Yep.
And when I first saw him, I thought, oh, they're dyeing his hair. It was interesting because they dyed the other boy's hair blonde and they dyed his hair reddish brown or whatever. But now I'm not sure. And I was wondering, I wanted to ask y'all that.
I think it's supposed to be his hair. You think it's a dye job?
I'm at least I'm remaining open to the possibility that it's a dye job with two purposes. One, just to have gone through this fake Daeron gambit in the first place and mask his identity there for a little while. Because the more it's like, if anyone has seen Daeron at any point sending a silver-haired kid in his place is like instant risk of discovery, you know? Like if anyone had told Daemon what color hair he has.
It's why I think Alicent immediately knew that
but he might also just be like, he's too small. It's a different, but I think the fact that to your point about just this like sense of, Ormond is in this episode and very sexist when he talks about Rhaenyra, right? Laughs talking about a woman on the throne. The Targ racism is abundant from him, but more broadly in all respects, this sense of, to your point, like the Hightower superiority. So the idea of like just making Daeron cosplay as a Hightower is at least interesting to me as a possibility. I don't know if that's what's happening.
Sprinkle in another popular theory, which is that Viserys is not his dad? Like, this is another question, is like, the timeline doesn't really work out as far as I'm concerned for when Alicent was sleeping with other people. But that is, many people are asking, is it possible that Alicent had Daeron not with her Targaryen decrepit husband, but maybe to make make sure that he's not
man.
to make sure that he's not a Targaryen, or for any other reason.
I don't know if the show is prepared to go. I don't know that it tracks for Alicent's character. I felt like when she fucked Criston, it was a real like, my husband died and I'm in mourning. But I think just the fact that like, I don't know if the show is ready to open up that question about like the Targaryen lineage and dragon riding if Daeron doesn't actually
that's
have
a great point. Of course.
Targaryen blood. And I think
course.
also just the fact that like Ormond is really pressing on the taint in his blood, as he calls it. It's more interesting to me if he is actually of the Targaryen line and has to make a choice between these aspects of his identity. We have a great moment in our Thrones viewing past, something like Jon and Theon, you don't have to choose. And it's like, well, maybe that's true for some characters in some moments, and maybe it isn't. Could Theon have chosen to be a Stark and a Greyjoy and embraced that totality? Sure. Can Daeron choose to be a Hightower and a Targaryen? Maybe he has to choose one or the other. I think it's going to be interesting to see if this corruption leads to Daeron falling into the tutelage and school of Ormond Hightower, or if he pushes back and resists and rejects it.
Is there any character in the show that is truly bi? And when I say that, I mean bi house. Is there a truly bi house character?
I think Daeron it seems like our version of that, maybe.
Could be.
Unless he just rejects the Hightower part of it.
Joffrey was clearly a Lannister, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly a Lannister. I'm
what
trying
about
to think.
the Velaryon? Like, what about, like, Baela and Rhaena?
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
Those are the only ones I can really think of, because most of them choose an identity, because even if they have a name, they choose an identity.
Yeah.
Like, so there's that's interesting. I don't know that have we ever watched someone have to wrestle between two houses in this way in the history of the show?
Well, I like that Theon example. This idea that Theon was like,
even Jon learning the truth about his Targaryen history and having the Stark aspect of that, which was always complicated. I think it's a focus of the show, given what the like name of your house and standing of your family kind of says about you and the business you're supposed to conduct in the realm. I think the Ormond. I was curious to ask you guys about what your read is on Ormond and the Faith right now, because inside of this episode, he once again makes a pledge / swears a vow of a fashion that he does not for a second intend to keep. It's just theater. What he does with Kat's brother, Hugh's brother-in-law, the Smith, who he has Daeron,
who doesn't have a name,
kill at the end. I'm like, calling him brother-in-law.
But can I just say, I was sad watching him die.
Oh, same.
Not because they did a great job of establishing that character, though, he was noble. He's defending his wife and his sister from a rapist. Another rape on Game of Thrones. Thank you so much. But because of Daeron, I feel bad saying this, but because it was such a tense moment for Daeron, and so I was so emotionally invested in this guy begging for his life because of what it meant for this kid going forward. I knew this guy's toast. Like, he's not making it out of the episode, but what is the death of this innocent due to Daeron Targaryen?
Absolutely. And more broadly, and I know this is something you wanted to hit later today, like this question of what it means to be a member of a community, the small folk, when the people who seek to rule and control you are, again, like on the prisoners list, the inhabitants of Tumbleton, certainly very high on the list, right? They have to make room in their home for the soldiers. So Ormond says, Garrick, you did this horrible thing. I'm going to geld you. I'm going to break your arm. It's bullshit, right? Ormond reveals to Daeron at the end the truth and reveals that to us.
Does he do both, though? Like, doesn't he not?
Did that guy still get punished?
And break his guy? I thought he did both.
Entirely possible, but the fact that he says to Daeron in that sept scene, where he is trying to stifle and suppress Daeron's literal dragon, but also the Targaryen aspect of his identity in the casing of the Faith and Hightower imagery. This guy hung not Aegon's gold dragon on a green field royal standard for Team Green. He hung Hightower banners in Tumbleton. The gall of that is astonishing. So my question is,
about the gall. I'm not astonished. That's classic Hightower behavior.
It is. And the Boltons take Winterfell and they hang the flayed man. But still, he's there in theory on behalf of this.
But the fact that
army,
that Aegon's banner is green in the first place is because of Hightower branding.
Absolutely. And that goes back to Alicent's mistakes and sins along the way. Otto's pursuit. All of it is very entwined with the Hightower. I mean, I think Ormond is articulating it to a degree that we haven't quite heard. My purpose is to restore the rightful line. The gods have put you to divine purpose. Victory will be ours. It is the will of the gods. That doesn't mean Daeron as the king of Team Green Targ. It means the Hightower is ruling. So he's
He wants a redhead on that throne.
He does. He bent the knee last week, had no intention of keeping the pledge. He does this thing where he pretends, because he knows the villagers are watching, that he's going to care if they err and do things wrong. He's there to protect the people. He says to Daeron, that guy's an extension of you. We can't let them harm him, of the soldier Garrick. So he's cloaking himself in faith. My question is he a true believer who does not identify his own hypocrisy, or is the faith yet another bit of his cosplay?
No, I think he's like, whatever I need to say in order to get closer to power, I will. And if it's cloaking myself in the faith, I will. If it's saying dragons are like an abomination, but also wielding this one like a blowtorch, I will, he wanted to use Vhagar. Like, it's not like he wasn't going to use, Vhagar and Aemon when he showed up. So it's like, it doesn't matter what he says. The only thing that matters is if he can smell delicious spices or incenses and have his bath. I don't know.
Well, he did something in the episode that was pretty priestly. He showed his dick to somebody who didn't want to see it. So.
Okay, I want to
power
ask you.
move of the bath was really something.
So like I'm like, yeah, this guy's probably a priest of some sort. Like it's so look, but with the scene with the guy. Once again, I know we have to move past this. I just want to say this for Daeron watching what he thought was a positive thing happening in this world. You see belief.
You see his face. He's like,
oh my God, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
This can all be great.
Yeah.
This is dope. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then what you have to do is snatch it away.
Yeah.
And go, we must kill, we must feast, we must fuck, we must rule.
Yeah.
And so like that's really important because Game of Thrones as a show has to continuously do that to the audience.
Sure.
Has to continuously let the audience know, hey man, you're not going to get your happy ending. This is a fucked up world.
It's Thrones, baby. I want to ask you a little bit more, Van, about Ormund Hightower, because I feel like, so what's so interesting about the story, and especially the way that this show is telling it of a Targaryen civil war, is the point the show is making is there is no real bad guy. There are bad actors on both sides. And everyone is right and everyone is wrong in their own way. And that is what's so interesting and conflicting about the Dance of Dragons. Otto is horrible, but is he right that Daemon is a piece of shit? Yeah, Daemon is a piece of shit, but is he right that Viserys is a weak king? Like, the show has been so invested in sort of balancing the scales to a certain degree. I've been Team Black, but like to a certain degree between the two teams, that we haven't had like a pure uncut villain like Ormund Hightower, I would argue, so far in the show. And it is a thing that I feel like has kicked this closer to feeling like Thrones to me than the show has so far. I like the murky morality of the Civil War, but I am relishing the Ormund Hightower of it all. So I was wondering, Van, I wanted to ask you, like, sort of when you think of Ormund Hightower in the context of other villains on thrones, of the Lannisters, Tywin, Cersei, Joff, of Ramsay and Roose Bolton, the High Sparrow, dare I say Euron Greyjoy, like all these other villains. Like, how necessary is like a delicious villain, we can all agree to hate him kind of character on Thrones? And where's this guy? I know it's early, but where's this guy rank for you?
I think characters like that orient the world. They are the ones this is a world that's not oriented by the heroes. It's oriented by how bad things could be.
Yeah.
And that lets you kind of connect to the noble people that are in this show, the pure heroes, the Jon Snows and the stuff like that. And also kind of understand like the Dannys and even the Daemons.
Yeah.
Like the people who are kind of more utilitarian in their villainy, or she gets to her villainy at the end. I think he's very important. I think he's also very important for leveling out this. Like when you would listen to people talk about this that had Red Fire and Blood, they'd be like, this show is too skewed to the blacks.
Yeah.
And that's changing rapidly in this season. Rapidly as we see the strain that the rule puts on you, you start to see that maybe there wasn't any nobility that was existing in Team Black. There was just desperation. They were clinging on each other as family and all of that stuff because they had to.
Yeah.
Now that they don't, Corlys is gone.
Right.
Everybody's pissed off. No one's working together.
That's the wildest move for me. That the hand of the queen is just sort of like, without even like
Very
giving
strange.
his notice, just like skips the small council meeting and is leaving.
Your children. That reminded me of one of my family reunions where people get too drunk and they go, you know, them kids ain't for you. Why we don't give them no more sweet potato pie.
I mean,
but
Queen of Bastards graffiti in the streets now.
So like when I look at him, it's very important that a guy like that exists to where we can litigate his actual morality. We can continuously ask the question, which we ask on Game of Thrones of villains, are they right? Right? Is he right in what he's saying? The Targaryens are ripping the world apart. Is he right? Would things not be better off if they got in there? Or at least they would be more functional. And then we just get to sneer at someone. It was hard to sneer at anybody in the show because everybody had a case to why they were doing what they were doing. And now we back. He showed his dick to people that didn't ask. By the way, confident. Confident.
Sure. Yeah.
Confident. I think about the scene with Rod Tidwell and Jerry Maguire, where Rod Tidwell pops out and he's like, I like to air dry. It's like, you know that guy's confident when he shows his piece to people.
Something that James Norton said before the season started, because someone who had seen this episode asked him about the like bare ass scene and his performance, and he's like, I decided to go sort of like as kind of camp as possible in this performance. I decided to go kind of big with it, and he's like, and those are the takes they kept.
Have to be.
Mallory, do you want to talk about Ormond in relation to other villains in the show, or do you want to talk about his ass in relation to other asses we've seen on Game of Thrones?
I mean, I think this has been like a very exciting thing to have this character in the show. We've talked a lot over the last few weeks about the Tywin comp, in part because, we've been getting emails from our listeners about it, in part because Ryan Condal, the showrunner, has been talking about how they were excited to try to introduce this story's version of Tywin into the story. And some of that is about means and resources. Some of it is about like the unknowable quality of operating in the shadows. I think this was an episode that showed us that is like very true and very not true about Ormond in a way that I find exciting. It's actually not interesting. And I think it would be very risky because Tywin is, we had him at number 1 on our best villains of the century so far podcast that we did. I think just trying to basically copy and paste Tywin, you can't. The Charles Dance performance is historic. The character's indelible. So give us some connective tissue to Tywin, but with a twist. The
tantrums.
Taking the Valyrian steel sword, the ancestral sword of House Hightower, vigilance, and throwing a fucking temper tantrum, trying to turn a very sturdy wood table, by the way, really held up well in the face of Valyrian steel into cinders is fucking embarrassing, right? He's acting like a little kid. Tywin, it's almost impossible to imagine Tywin doing something similar. I think the other thing is thinking about the relationships, like the level of respect. I always think of something like the season 2 line about Tywin, which was the big line in the trailers. 7 kingdoms united in fear of Tywin Lannister. That's what Ormond wants, but that's not where he is. So he's a striver. He's not operating from the same position of assurance that Tywin was, and that's, I think, an important distinction in terms of how they behave. The comp that was undeniable in this episode is, I'm going to take the person who is king or about to be king and teach them the way I want them to learn. So he gives Daeron lesson after lesson in this episode, including a righteous king must demonstrate he upholds many virtues, honor, wisdom, justice. Poor Daeron is like, what about mercy? The most venom we've heard from Ormond yet was the snap of, that sounds like something your father would say. Now, we've been very critical of Viserys, but I loved the reminder that he was merciful.
I felt very defensive of Viserys in that moment. Seeing his dusty Legos also made me think of him.
I know, with infested by rats. But the Tom and Tywin, what makes a good king scene in front of Joffrey's body? Is it holiness? Is it justice? Is it strength? No, it's wisdom. That's sort of Tywin because it was the wisdom to listen to him. But also you could see that Tommen was like, I'm learning something. That's not the look on Daeron's face in these scenes with Ormond.
What I think is wild, and I want to hear from you, Ben, but like what I think is wild is when what I love in this episode is we hear Gwaine talk about Ormond and we hear Alicent talk about Ormond. It's like we're seeing him and we're hearing the people who grew up around him talk about him as well. And so we're getting we're getting this sort of like prismatic picture of him. But for Alicent to talk about him in the same terms we've heard Viserys mention, that he's a scholar, he's a student of history.
Tapestries.
Like all that sort of stuff. And I'm just sort of like, the Viserys comp is really interesting to me. Again, what did you want to say?
Not from what we know from the past, because, drowned a whole family and all of that stuff, but just from what we saw on the show, did you guys think of Tywin Lannister as particularly cruel?
Yes, to his own children.
Yeah.
I thought that was like the measuring stick, is like how horrible he was to his own children.
I don't know why, but I never did.
Okay.
I thought of him
I would be consumed by maggots before I let you turn Casterly Rock into your whorehouse is maybe the most cruel thing any character said to another at any point in the show.
However, not making it up.
Tywin Lannister had some points.
However,
he's driven of Tyrion his whole life.
He has been, and like he blames Tyrion. Even in that though, he blames Tyrion for the death of his wife. right? And then he looks down, but he was the ultimate pragmatist to me. And he was pragmatic in times where he should have been fatherly. And that's what made him bad to me. What made him bad was that he didn't have a heart for anyone. It was legitimately, he had built the Lannisters back up, and now he wasn't going to let anybody fuck with it, even if it was his own children. And I think that is one of the things that is most closely associated with what I see from Ormond right now.
They're both obsessed with legacy.
Right.
Yeah. Tywin was always invoking the
Corlys
idea
is
of
like,
legacy.
excuse me.
I would also like to be a part of this, no doubt. The Alicent flagging the odor concern to
cool little moment.
What's going to happen? Are they going to have a dragon fart on his pillow?
Shit.
Like, what?
Dragon shit tactical warfare. My hope. My theory
so
earlier,
excited.
because we had seen in the trailer him take that sword to the table.
Yeah.
And so my theory is that they're going to like hide bad smelling things in Templeton that he can't find to drive him crazy. I don't think this was going to happen. I think they're going to have just like a dragon carpet bomb the city with shit.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be really much more fun if they just like hid smelly shit all over the city. And Ormond's like, where is it coming from? I want to talk about Alys.
Let's do it. Your girl is thriving.
The witch queen of Harrenhal. Appears to have had a bit of a glow up, right? She always looks sensational, but she's like, I swear to you, there is no way the dress she's wearing did not come from Simon Strong's personal store of purple velvet. Like she raided the closet. She's wearing gold and like queenly velvet now.
She looks great.
She looks fantastic.
Is it because all of the other people there are gone now and it's just
Strongs
hers
are dead.
it's just hers to rule now?
Yeah, but the question is, and we've all read the book, so we know the answer, but we don't talk about that sort of stuff here. But like, where is Aemon and Vhagar? Where are Aemon and Vhagar? How is Vhagar one of the biggest? Like, we hear in this very episode, Jane Eyre said, hey, as you flew Caraxes through the Vale, I got raven after raven.
Everyone was talking about it.
Caraxes, a much smaller dragon than Vhagar. So why has no one any fucking idea where Vhagar is? That's insane. Has Alys made him invisible?
Oh, I love this. You know what? Let's play out the string on this for a second. It's my only theory. You can't hide Vhagar.
Well, hold on. That makes a fuck ton of sense because I'm wondering. No, I swear to God, she walks out there and they're asking all of these questions. Like, there's a gigantic dragon. She's put some kind of hex over the castle.
Well, Criston and Gawain and their soldiers have a very now familiar entrance to Harrenhal, like walking through the creepy hallways,
spooky
reflections in puddles,
out.
swords out. But their reaction to the sounds they were hearing, including a goat, yet again a goat, wonderful stuff.
A bleat from a goat the second before she appears.
Yes. Well, this is further fodder for your theory.
Do you think Alys can shapeshift into a goat? Because we keep seeing goats and then we see Alys.
She said she was a barn owl. Why not a goat?
So I'm like, to me, she's like one of the more. I think the show's much better without Aemon, but I think
I don't disagree. Honestly,
I think the show is much better without Aemon. Not because he's not a good character. But because when you take him away, you don't have to focus on him, and the smaller things that kind of shape this world.
I really agree.
Yeah, I think the show is much better without him. I think it'll be awesome to see how he fits when he comes back into it. Yeah. I don't think he's a whack character. Him and Vhagar being off the board, they take away this kind of dread, and now it becomes more of a human show.
The missing dread is even more palpable, and I think when Vhagar and Aemon can just like torch anything at any given time, it's less interesting than like, okay, now Ormond has to figure out how to make Tessarion his WMD. You know, like, what do we do?
Or even just Aegon hearing not only that it's out there that he's dead, but that the story is that Aemon killed him, and having to be like, fuck, this guy is still hurting me and burning me even in his absence. When they're walking when they're hearing the sounds. Now, we've heard creepy, ghostly Harrenhal sounds every time we've been in Harrenhal. That's just like, that's our brass tacks at this point. But there was something that like, to me, I was like, is Vhagar about to appear? Because it sounded like
you thought it was a sneak job.
The heft of a dragon
hiding.
And I'm like, maybe that's just the classic crumbling walls of Harrenhal.
Vhagar's just behind a column.
Perhaps invisible.
Oh, Vhagar, that's hilarious. He's just hiding. He's like,
just waiting.
But what did you want to say about Alys?
Oh, no. It was interesting to see her as lady of the entire manor.
Yeah.
Because they've done a lot of character work with her. And I was like, these fucking guys are in danger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are actually, if she decides that if they don't stand down from wanting to find him and wanting to find Vhagar, if they don't like settle into, and then of course Cole goes into his whole, what a monologue, by the way.
Yeah.
Goes into his whole deal,
He's
like
amazing.
fucking killing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, these guys are actually in danger. I thought halfway that she might fuck over them at that point, that something was going to happen.
Well, the thing that's interesting for us as viewers is, like, we actually have not gotten an update on Aemon since we saw him stabbed in the kidney, and since he fell at Alys's feet and begged her to help him. We were like waiting for news.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so we don't know from an adaptive point of view,
right,
where Aemon and Vhagar are.
The thing we know is that she lied to them. Because she did not offer up that he had been injured. She just said she's trying to sow dissent. Because she wants them out. He was here and then he left. She withholds the fact that the way Criston and Ormund are both like, I can't believe that Aemon would abandon us like this. It's really funny to me. Oh my God.
But they were counting on that.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk. Criston was like, he wouldn't do this to me. Let's talk about Criston Cole. So, like, Mallory pointed out really, I thought intelligently, as always, in the first episode of the season, that Criston Cole was painting his house sigil, House Cole, on his shield when they were in the camp. And Gwen's like, hey, should we take care of these rapists? And Kriston's like,
you do it.
You take care of it. I'm busy with my arts and crafts, right? So House Cole. So he is like thinking a lot about where he came from. Yeah. And Mallory, your interpretation was sort of like that he was embracing that identity to a certain degree. But I think it's really interesting in this scene that he's like, you know, we were at the whim of the Dondarrions. Mm-hmm. Like, we were nothing. And if Rhaenyra is on the throne, I'm nothing. There's nothing for me to go back to. House Cole is not a home for me to return to. Mm-hmm. So, like, this existential poet, Criston Cole, continues apace. But, like, you love this monologue. Like, what do you guys think of this moment? Van, what do you think?
So, you know how Ulf, the episode before, she's giving out names, and Ulf goes, Targaryen? She goes, oh God. No,
yeah.
Right?
She's like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. She gives him a name, whatever. So Ulf is a lowborn who never thought that they would be in a position to actually be in the business of the highborn people, and now is trying to figure out how to use his utility to pay off for him and for his boys.
Yeah. Incredible.
To get some drinks for his boys.
Yeah. And like
some crimes. We don't need to get into them.
Something by Raspberry. Don't worry about it.
When I look at Cole, who has killed for so long for other people.
Kingmaker.
Like an absolute kingmaker. Someone that's killed so long for other people. I always wonder, with a character like that, when do they go, you know what? Fuck it. It's about me. It's not. It's about me now. Well, how can I make this benefit me?
Yeah.
And when that character who you are expecting to be a cog in this wheel, both from a warfare standpoint, from a standpoint of honor, what a knight's supposed to do, when they go off on their own, it's always destabilizing. It always becomes something that is unpredictable to people who need him to act in exactly the way they want him to act in order to achieve their goals. And so in that monologue, I was just watching him go, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. I'm going to do in this situation what I think needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to kind of be pulled on anymore. I'm going to go do this because it's about me.
I think that's really interesting, and I want to think about that more, but I really like what you said about sort of destabilizing the soldier, the general, when you remove him. And I was like thinking about what Cole and Gwaine are going through, and Gwaine being like, this sucks. Can we go
but this
to
what
Dalton?
We have to, this is what we need to do.
But like, it feels like a Vietnam War story. Like, he's just out in the wilderness, away from sort of like the rules and regulations of the White Cloak and everything that he was told. And he's like Colonel Kurtz out in the jungle, losing his marbles, having seen the horrors that he's seen of war at Rook's Rest. So he's got this PTSD from Rook's Rest. He's out here seeing charred bodies and horses as they're riding up to Harrenhal. So he's like, I'm really excited to do this without dragons, because dragons are horrible. But also, I just like this idea of like, this is the regimented soldier out in the wilderness, and what happens when you have to make your own rules and figure out your own sort of construction.
Yeah, I feel like Criston was a character across the timeline from the beginning of the show whose pursuit of ambition, Van, to your point, was like, I move forward. Right? I move forward into places I never thought I would inhabit. The King's Guard, Sworn Shield, eventually Hand of the King. It astonished even him, I think, that happened, right?
But he's still wearing that necklace.
He sure is. Even Corlys, when he left, still had the Hand of the King pin, which was nice.
He's got the Hand of the King armor is on there. Like, what
I felt like guilty that we told Chris we were done with the Triarchy. Clearly not. He's like, I'm going to go clean up some Triarchy remnants here.
Chris will be thrilled.
Criston, you know, the White Cloak, the idea of the righteous pursuit, always putting stock and meaning in forging his identity through these symbols. And so when he was painting the sigil of his own house and the way he talked about his family here, I feel like he has lost the ability to believe in the ideal, right? Dragon War took that away from him, so what you're saying. All he has now is the ability to try to reconnect and reclaim the thing that he was distancing himself from, which is, I'm actually just a man. Now, if I were Gawain, I would say, didn't you tell me at the end of season 2 and the finale that to die would be kind of a relief? I don't know if I'm really up for what you're pitching.
Well, I think this is why Gawain sends a raven to Templeton.
Even though
when
Criston told him not to. Right.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a little bit of a divide there in how they see the world. And the fact that Criston is like, the thing that you said about beasts and honor, yeah, this is how I'm going to like pretend that we're talking about the same thing. It's so clear that they're not. I mean, the look of horror on Gawain's face. Great Gawain episode, because when Daeron had the like brightness on his face, is Gawain coming?
Yeah.
You know, that was really lovely. Criston is seeking like any form of purpose.
I don't know that it's like that he loves Gawain, but he's like a
Anyone
layer of
but
protection
Ormund.
from Ormund.
Yeah.
Gawain just seems blissfully normal in this entire thing. He started off seeming like a kind of a weak bitch-ass nigga for a while. And then, like, as we N-word on Talk to Thrones first time, it's like, and as we continue to go, he starts becoming somebody that's a little bit in over his head, but in a very, very, very relatable way.
Yeah.
And so now, when I could see him being comforting to him, because he's like, is somebody that I can talk to just going to show up in this motherfucker?
I love that. I think I'm just really interested to track these two and their you know, their paltry handful of people that they have left with them.
Yeah.
This idea of like guerrilla tactics inside of Game of Thrones.
Asymmetrical
the river
warfare.
scum.
Yeah.
The river
I'm
scum.
really excited to see. I don't know how that's going to go. Cole does not seem too certain that they're going to win, but he wants to try to slow them down and hurt them.
He just wants some purpose, meaning, and glory, it feels like.
I just want to see him come up out of the mud in this real
It just
apocalypse
feels
now
like he wants
moment.
something for himself. He wants to call his own shot. He wants to do something. He wants to. He doesn't want to have to wait on a dragon or wait on anything.
To feel like
that.
he has a place in any
to
of it.
feel like he has a
can
place
achieve
of any of
anything.
it. Like when he's given that monologue, he's talking about what everybody else has, but then he also talks about what he comes from.
Sure.
Mhm.
Like what he is.
Mhm.
And it seems like he wants to honor that.
Which is something Gawain had like weaponized to mock him in season 2, and now Criston is trying to like reclaim it. Did you think it was purposeful that Alys called herself the steward?
Yes.
It's like she's in Kristen's head, right?
Yeah.
She knows that he's thinking about his dad, thinking about what it meant to be a steward of.
She's
of
in everyone's
yeah,
head.
it's
I love her.
very good.
Big reveal, I would say, in this episode is that Helaena is pregnant. That is how I am interpreting what we just saw there.
For sure.
You guys can say that. I can't say that.
Those tits are swollen.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, and she sort of like reached for the abdomen and so
I laughed out. Why was I laughing? I was laughing.
I laughed when we see Helaena in the background just like sort of struggling to get her nightgown.
I was
on.
watching with my mom. My mom was like, "Oh, she fucking pregnant."
Yeah,
oh yeah,
she's
no
pregnant.
question.
Yeah.
So this is a both a book change and also an attempt to sort of like reconcile with what's true in the book, which is that Helaena has another kid in the book. And I don't know that we need to like go into all the details of what's going on with the kid, but I think it's really interesting. I think we can talk about this and you can tell me if you don't think we can. But like the absence of that kid in this adaptation, Helena's other kid, was the real sore spot for George R.R. Martin. He called it out specifically.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting that they're like, okay, the kid's not here, but she is pregnant.
Yeah.
So this idea of another kid for Helaena is being introduced into the mix. Mal, do you want to like, how much do you think we can talk about or speculate about how this might play out?
I think there's a lot we can say, actually. Like, we won't get into any of the stuff that happens with that kid who does exist in the book.
Yeah.
Obviously, we won't touch that. But to your George point, that's the now infamous Beware the Butterflies blog post about what certain adaptive changes mean for not only events for those characters, but other characters. I think it's interesting to think about in a couple, like, so there's the real world connection there. In terms of in the show, there's just we were like talking on the deep dive after episode 3, how long has passed. This is like a bit of timeline clarity that's just, I think, helpful for viewers that like, we know Aegon's cock exploded like a sausage on a spit at Rook's Rest.
Mm-hmm.
If that's Aegon's kid.
Either not his kid or it's just a way to kind of cement that it's not been that long since Rook's Rest, which we also feel when Aegon and Larys are there looking at Malys's, beheaded corpse, still fresh, people looting the corpses in the battlefield,
super
etc.
fresh.
Pretty rank, actually.
Covered in flies.
Very tough. I think that the idea of if it is Aegon's kid, or people will assume it's Aegon's kid, either way, the idea of we're not going to go back and make Blood and Cheese more intense by like having that choice. That's done, right? But what will the realm think if there is another child is huge, right? And it's huge for what the realm thinks. But obviously for us as viewers, the more important part is, what does Rhaenyra do once she knows this?
Helaena, you're in danger, girl.
Yeah. Like, and I think the fact now in hindsight to last week's episode, that we spent so much time, it was kind of comical the way Daemon kept being like, you're going to have to kill Daeron, right? Mm-hmm. And that was interesting to see how Rhaenyra processed that and what choices she moved in and out of. The fact that in this episode, Rhaenyra says to Alicent, I would have spared him, you know? Yeah. Right. And on both of their faces, it's like, would you have? So this is on our minds. It's like not only a Daeron consideration, but a primer for that.
That's interesting. I interpreted that differently. I thought Alicent really believed her when she's like, I would have spared him. That's why she offers up that information about Ormond. She's just sort of like, I do think you would have spared him.
But I think Alicent is thinking back to what she said to Rhaenyra last episode, which is like just the weight of the burden of being on the throne, of having the crown. Whatever you think you want to do and whoever you think you are, that's lost. It's changed undeniably and inevitably, whether you want to believe that's true or not.
Why do you think Alicent would in that moment give her something in exchange for that?
Because she's trying to get her exit still. Like she's trying to, preserve her part of the pact. But I think the fact that Rhaenyra, the flip side is, she was appalled after Blood and Cheese. Appalled that Daemon did this thing. Appalled that Helena's child, who was also Aegon's child, was killed. Appalled that a young person was killed. Rhaenyra has now lost 2 of her sons and knows what that grief is like. So you have these different aspects of people saying, you are the challenge, right? Going back to season 1, you can't leave a threat to your reign alive with like what is still in Rhaenyra's heart, which is like compassion and care. She brings Alicent that ring. I got Otto's bones back. Here's this ring. Viserys would want it. There is care and love and humanity. Which of those will win out as the story keeps being told?
Yeah, and also, I keep coming back to the fact that these people are like family.
Yeah.
Right? And even in the last episode, she's talking to fake Daeron. She goes, you are my half-brother.
Mm-hmm. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You took up with the usurper. What do you have to say for yourself?
So I love that tone.
They're all family, right? So this baby represents this incredible threat to like the throne.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
This baby, but it's also like her grandbaby, right? It's also like, that would be Alicent's
grandbaby.
It's also her grandbaby, right?
Yeah. So and it would be Rhaenyra's.
And also Rhaenyra likes Helaena.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes.
So like you look at this and there's going to be this double source of dread. Yeah. Number one, you're in danger. Number one, this child that I am hardwired to love is in danger. And also something else just about the show, that between them gave Helena's character some narrative agency.
I really liked it because she was like, it's clear that she knows and she's been
hiding it. So like now we wonder, she's been aloof, she's been away, she's been trying to hide this. Now we know. Now when we see her, she doesn't come into the show as an afterthought anymore. It raises the stakes for every scene that she's in.
Absolutely.
Van, what do you think of Aegon's sort of undercover boss storyline that we get in this episode?
Man, let me tell you, since I was a kid, I love The Prince and the Pauper.
Oh, yeah.
I love stories where noble people have to go into the world and see the way other people live.
And separate the piss from the shit.
Separate the piss from the shit, because it always reorients like their understanding of humanity. Like there's a world where him being down there actually makes him a better future ruler because he more understands like what's going on.
Yeah, when he's like, is this how you rule, running out of food for your people? And you're like, buddy, Aegon.
Right.
Look in the mirror.
Like the entire thing, right? Yeah. He just kind of gets this crash course on what it takes to live down there. Yeah. Because to live where he's lived, like he's prepared for that since birth. I love all of that stuff. I will say, when Game of Thrones wants to get disgusting,
those boots,
you can smell
so gnarly.
The world.
Yeah.
But I think there wasn't as much of them. Larys is the other guy, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't as much of them in the episode.
Yeah.
But it was perfectly sprinkled in to like take the episode over the top.
I also think Larys is like so funny when the look he gets on his face when he's getting threatened. He's like, "You wouldn't hurt a member of the faith, would you?"
Right.
Like it's just like so funny.
I just how many times can this motherfucker talk himself out of getting his shit pushed in?
Yeah,
like, every time he knows exactly what to say.
Which is why he's the best character on the show.
A ruler and a survivor.
Yeah.
He is completely brave.
Yeah.
Like devastatingly focused.
Yeah.
And every
Smart.
single time someone is talking to him, he just lets them know with one sentence, I'm a little bit smarter than you are.
He's like, oh no, here's my entire coin purse. When like he definitely has other money on his person, not to mention they have the crown. We've talked a lot about Team Green. I do want to make sure we talk about Team Black.
Yes. I do think we should just quickly note though the Sunfire thing. That Aegon is like, my boy, I'm here. He's alive. I know it. He's alive. He must be. Wake up, Sunfire, I'm here. Heartbreaking. Warms us to Aegon, a character who has done a lot of terrible things, but you see that bond, that desperate need to believe that, the way he's holding one of his scales as he walks forward. I think on the Larys front, the thing that's interesting about it is, like, I agree. He's a schemer. He's a plotter. He's always a step ahead. He's incredibly smart and observant and attuned. He shares something else with other characters who are not Targaryens, which is failing to really appreciate and prize the bond between a rider and their dragon.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Larys being like, I know you're sad. Let's go. You said you wanted to see him. You saw him. Let's move on. We had Alicent say to Aemond when he was a kid, like, your obsession with those beasts goes beyond understanding. We have Ormund just hand-waving Daeron, saying, don't show any affection to this. Even part of what I loved about Daemon, and we can transition into Team Black from here, Daemon and Rhaena, was like, Daemon saying to Rhaena, not wrongly, by the way, we saw what happened at the Gullet. Wild Dragon, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to control it. This is like nuts. Very purposeful on the show's part, that as that is happening, Caraxes is ignoring everything that Daemon says.
Oh yeah, obey.
No,
this is the first time we've seen Caraxes.
But in the show, this show is doing a great job of explaining just how intimate these relationships are. Because Caraxes is like, hey, Dad, there's something that you have to see.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, no, obey, serve. He's like, no, serve my ass. Look, your daughter's over here with a wild dragon, and they shacking up.
Yeah.
Like, I know better. I got your back. I protect you. But like, and that to me made what Ormond said at the end of the episode even more like out of touch.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't understand the culture of the Targaryens.
Right.
He doesn't understand what he's actually asking this kid to step away from, how dangerous
to suppress.
You know what I mean? So he doesn't even get what it is that he's talking about.
And I really like this, the Rhaena Daeron sort of what makes a Targaryen, a question I'm always interested in asking, but like sort of Rhaena's like a Targaryen without a dragon.
Right.
Pathetic. Shunned. You never thought of me. The show didn't give a shit about me. Like nobody cared about Rhaena until she found Sheep Stealer, you know, and for Daeron to be like, okay, my dragon's in chains and I'm using, you know, this House Hightower sword to kill someone, but like I'm being asked to suppress this dragon nature inside of me, either with hair dye or otherwise. I think it's really interesting.
You know what I think about? I can't help but thinking. So, you know, she never had a dragon.
Yeah.
She reminds me of the family member that doesn't fit in with the rest of the family. And so she goes and starts fucking with drugs. Because even when I'm serious, even when she walks out, she has the look of a Wire character or Pookie from New Jack City.
I need to ask you about the wig.
Or it's terrible. Go ahead. Like, go ahead. But so when
it's very bad.
It is. Sheep Stealer is like her narcotic. It's like she's chasing the high of being
chasing the dragon
of being like a part of her family. And she basically told her dad, she goes, yo, man, I'm not getting off coke. So go I'm not ready to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Go tell your wife or whoever, whatever the fuck you need to tell them. If you want to sell me out, you can sell me out. But I'm about to go back in here and get high again.
You didn't care what I was doing before, so you cared now.
Care now?
Just keep on not caring. Keep on doing what you've been doing.
I love that aspect of isolation leads to desperation and the decision to stay and claim Sheep Stealer in the first place and to fly into the Gullet with no prep. Leads to isolation. Very of a piece with sin because
Sheep Stealer sharing that food with her felt like more than anything that her family had ever done.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Daemon flustered is a very rare thing. I'm just trying to remember.
I thought that scene was great.
It was so awesome. He was like, yo, I actually do
really good.
Kind of love you. I don't want you to be in here.
I do remember that you exist, kind of.
It's like, I don't want you to. And then he makes his decision in a grotesque way to protect his daughter.
He does, yeah. And part of like his Harrenhal awakening that we've talked about so much through the lens of Viserys and Rhaenyra and the prophecy was also Laena's specter appearing to him and saying like, have you looked after our girls? And what was the answer? I have not.
Yeah.
So to be confronted with the cost of that.
But I also liked seeing Daemon, badass of Westeros, dive out of the way when Sheepstealer and Rhaenyra come out of the cave. Yeah, like she's on the back of that wild dragon and she's like, fuck you, Dad. I don't have to listen to you. I'm on drugs or I've got a big car or whatever you want to say. All right, let's talk about the Team Black Small Council. It's locked into place, right? We still got some empty spots here, but like Master of Coin, Torrin Manderly's like, has anyone ever heard of a tax? Have you considered it?
I love this guy.
I also love this guy.
Very amusing so far.
Mysaria's got the most influential spot, I would say, right? Rhaenyra's like, we're going to give all the gold to the small folk.
Yes.
And Daemon's
What's her
like,
exact position?
Mistress of Whispers.
Mistress of Whispers.
Which was Larys' job.
Larys' job,
yeah. And so Rhaenyra's like, we're giving all the money to the poors. And Daemon's like, you got to give it to the cops, Rhaenyra. And she's like, nope, we'll let the cops abuse the poors, but we'll give the poor people their gold. And Daemon's like, this kind of ruling is not going to go well. But the constant Mysaria, Daemon sort of grappling for influence inside of the small council is interesting. Alan's there, though I did like his scene with Rhaenyra. I felt like this is the first time, something I've been saying about Alan that has been like frustrating to me is he seems so like one note. All of his scenes are about his legitimacy with his father. And so the scene that Rhaenyra and Alan have right around the dusty Lego set of Viserys' Lego set, I thought was so beautiful because yes, it's still about his father. It is. But like it's about him connecting with another character. About him having advice to give to her, not just about the cats, but just sort of like what Corlys needs in this moment. And I just thought this was like a big step forward for a character that I've been like really searching for more depth from.
He reminds me the most of Jon.
Tell me more.
Really?
Yeah, because he's noble born in shame.
Yeah.
Just like Jon. And like Jon was going to the wall, all of that stuff, but through task, Jon proved his psychic nobility, his emotional nobility, his worth.
Yeah.
And,
interesting.
And so the only way that Alan has been able to prove his worth to his father, to this realm, now to his queen, simply by saying something that my grandmother and father told me when I was a kid. We got rats in the barn. Let's go get a cat. Like legitimately, like, hey, I see a couple rats in the barn. I'm trying to feed the horses. My grandmother, but baby, go down there and talk to the ladies. She got some kittens down there. What the hell that's gonna do? Put a cat in there. Rats gone.
I'm so excited for the future of the Red Keep swarmed with cats.
Same, though I'd be obviously then very nervous about their well-being, you know? Sir Pounce still
yeah.
top of mind.
Yeah, but maybe it's like a Sir Pounce ancestor.
So he's proven his worth as a sailor, as a combatant. He's proven his worth as a son, really. And now, quickly, just with a little thing, proven his worth as an aide of the king. Is he the hand now? Is he the hand of the king?
He's sitting in the hands chair.
He's not.
He cannot be the hand. That would be the craziest thing ever.
And the reason why I say that he reminds me of him is because there's still a purity to the character to where it really feels like in every situation, he's taking the opportunity to do what he legitimately thinks is right.
Is right, yeah, for sure.
I want to close out by asking, Mallory, I thought this was a really good Orwyle episode. And Orwyle is a character who has been around like since the not since the beginning, but for a long time. And now is being given much more to do. And this is an actor I've always enjoyed in like many things, but I just feel like finally they're writing him scenes where he gets to actually do more. And he's engaging in one of the larger themes of the episode, which is like the faith and also sort of where does the rubber meet the road? And he's like, oh, are we gonna kill the Septon? Is that what we need to do? I'll do it. What do you need? What do you need me to do? You gave me.
You were so bloodthirsty.
She goes, oh,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. So, how are you feeling about Orwyle or anyone else on the council you want to talk about?
I think in general, it was just like a fascinating, and this has been true all season, like a fascinating episode to think about the dynamics between these people. Where is their actual trust? Where is the trust sort of necessary and forced, but not authentic? And how lasting is it in either circumstance, right? So to see Rhaenyra kind of, I think, authentically come to open up and reveal things to Orwyle, like to say, the High Septon won't anoint me, is to reveal something that makes Rhaenyra vulnerable to somebody that could, in theory, take that information and wield it against her, right? So that shows a genuine, not just maybe ability to trust Orwyle specifically, perhaps in part because Mysaria was like, I think this guy's okay. And we know how much stock Rhaenyra puts into what Mysaria says, but because of the need to have people around her to rely on.
Advisors.
Yeah, saying last week, like, useless. Right?
But she also needs a type of advisor. when you look at the advisors that she seems to kind of jibe with, it's, how can I put this? It's Alan, it's Mysaria, it's people that like she finds their worth for herself. Not the people that she is told should really matter to her.
Sure.
Corlys, Daemon, those people give her advice based on tradition, based on structure,
right?
Based on, honestly, like masculinity a lot of times. It's like being hyper, go, kill. This is the way you got to be.
Yeah.
And when she actually has a moment with someone and she goes, oh, you care about what I'm going through, you respect what I'm going through, and you have something actually to add, she then forms a bond with those people. And I think that's kind of what's happening with the 3 members of the council that we're talking about right now.
I like that she has Torrhen Manderley on the council, because even though he's like kind of there for comic relief to a certain extent, it seems like the fact that she met him at the rap banquet and he like called her out. And she's like, I want that voice on my council. And like we gave Rhaenyra, I think rightly so, a lot of shit for like the way in which she made some poor choices in her management style last week and stuff like that. But just sort of like looking at who she's choosing to surround herself, I actually think she's making good I'm worried about Mysaria, but I think she's making good choices.
You worried about Mysaria how?
Just like her influence over Rhaenyra and like what her ultimate agenda is.
I mean, even appointing Torrhen Manderley as Master of Coin, that happened because Mysaria was like, let's get a scapegoat in here.
Yeah.
We need someone to blame. The fact that Mysaria sniffs out that Daemon is full of shit with the fake sheep stealer rider head, for us with the history between those characters, very exciting. Worrying, I think, to think about Mysaria, now Mistress of Whispers, Little Birds, actually finding out the truth or whatever she's going to do. This is a character who has said multiple times now to Rhaenyra some version of, you sure you can trust Alicent, Daemon? There's not a chance that Mysaria is not going to try to prove
also, she's
to Rhaenyra.
Monitoring all of the ravens in and out of
because
the castle.
Orwyle has to share that information with her now. So whether it's like actual proof is retrieved or just planting the seed to sow some sort of distrust, we talked a lot last week about like mounting paranoia for Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
The fact that the chief advisors are not aligned and are not only not aligned, but determined to best and trump each other is the risk of that stoking Rhaenyra's sense of like, I don't know who I can rely on at all. The paranoia is very, very real. You couple that with one of her dragon seeds, Ulf, saying, I thought this was shocking. I mean, it was hysterical that he came in and asked for the.
Was he drunk when he said this?
Probably.
I think it became sometimes possible.
Because he had
the
a
work,
pair of
I am
balls
sure,
on him.
of some of your misguided subjects who mistakenly believe their queen to be unkind.
Yeah.
She could have cut off his head right there.
But she needs him.
But he also was like,
she needs his head and his belly intact.
It's a moment where he realized like how important he was. But it was also a moment, real quick, where he was like, hey man, you fucking with me, I'm gonna fuck with you back a little bit. Hey, just let you know, the guys that I drink with, that I'm asking for a little bit of extra pour, a little deeper pour of the mead for them, these are the people that's out there saying you ain't shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And they say this all the time. And the way she chose to deal with it was interesting too, her development as a monarch. The way she chose to deal with it was with the heaviness of her thumb.
Yeah.
Erase it and find out who's doing it.
Yeah.
Not, I need to be better or...
And she doesn't have an eye on it, because when we watch her gold cloaks in the street and when we watch Ormond's men in the streets of Tumbleton, there's no difference between the way in which they're abusing the people on both Team Green, Team Black. And here we are once again, it's a civil war and the small folk are the ones who suffer. That has been an episode of Talk of Thrones. We'll be back. You can hear more from Van on the Midnight Boys. Pew, pew. We'll be back with a deep dive on House of R. Thank you so much, the whole team that is here. Thank you to Chris Ryan and Absentia.
Oh, man.
And we'll be back with Chris. But thank you so much, Van, for filling in.
What a treat.
It was fun, guys.
What an absolute pleasure and thrill.
Stop it.
It was fun.
We'll be back after next week's episode, immediately here on Talk of Thrones. See you soon. Bye.